Roots. Roots anchor plants in the ground, holding soil in place and prevent erosion. Root systems absorb water and dissolve nutrients. Roots transport these materials to the rest of the plant, store food, and hold plants upright against forces such as wind and rain. Ground tissue produces and stores sugars and contributes to the physical support of plants. It is neither dermal nor vascular. What is a root? As soon as the seed begins to sprout, it puts out its first root to draw water and nutrients from the soil. Rapid cell growth pushes the tips of growing roots into the soil. The new roots provide raw material for the developing stems and leaves before they emerge from the soil. The two main types of root systems are taproot systems and fibrous root systems. The taproot system are found mainly in dicots. Dandelions have a taproot system. Fibrous root systems are found mainly in monocots. Grasses have a fibrous root system. In some plants, the primary root grows long and thick and gives rise to smaller branch roots. The larger primary root is called a taproot. The taproots of oak and hickory trees grow so long that they can reach water several meters below the surface. For example, a dandelion has a short, thick taproot that stores sugars and starches. In other plants, such as grass, the system begins with one primary root, but it is soon replaced by many equal-sized branch roots that grow separately from the base of the stem. The extensive fibrous root systems produced by many plants help prevent topsoil from being washed away by heavy rain. As seen in the figure, a mature root has an outside layer of dermal tissue called the epidermis on the outside, and also contains vascular tissue and large area of ground tissue in a root cap. The root system plays a key role in water and mineral transport. So the epidermis on the outside, root hairs, cortex, endodermis, right outside the phloem, and then inside the phloem is the xylem, and at the bottom, the apical meristem, the root cap. The root's epidermis performs the dual functions of protection and absorption. Its surface is covered with thin cellular projections called root hairs, which penetrate the space between the soil particles and produce a large surface area that allows water and minerals to enter. Just inside the epidermis is the region of ground tissue called the cortex, this wide area of gray. Water and minerals move through the cortex from the epidermis toward the center of the root. The cortex also stores the products of photosynthesis, such as starch. A layer of ground tissue, known as endodermis, completely encloses the vascular cylinder. The endodermis plays an essential role in the movement of water and minerals into the center of the root. At the center of the root, the xylem and phloem together make up a region called the vascular cylinder. Within here is the vascular cylinder, this complete arrangement of cells inside the endodermis, which is inside the cortex. Dicot roots, like the one shown in the figure, have a central column of xylem cells. Right down the middle is the xylem cells. Roots grow in length when apical meristem produce new cells near the tip of the root, near the root tips. A tough root cap protects the meristem as the root tip forces its way through the soil, secreting a slippery substance that eases the progress of the root through the soil. Cells at the tip of the root cap are constantly being scraped away, and new root cap cells are continually added by the meristem. Like a worn drill bit, these cells wear off and they're replaced from underneath. Soil is a complex mixture of sand, silt, clay, air, and bits of decaying animal and plant tissue. Soil in different places contains varying amounts of these ingredients. The ingredients define the soil and determine, to a large extent, the kinds of plants that grow in it. To grow, flower, and produce seeds, plants require a variety of inorganic material, nutrients. The nutrients needed in the largest amounts are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. This is a picture of different types of soil. Which do you think are the most nutrient rich? Deficiency of nutrient elements cause symptoms in plants. Studies have been done that give you some idea of what would be missing: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, iron, copper, zinc, or any of the others. You can look at the symptoms and possibly have some idea which nutrient might be missing in your soil. So, the uptake of plant nutrients: nitrogen plays a role in the plant of proper leaf growth and color, synthesis of amino acids, proteins, nucleic acid, and chlorophyll. And if it's deficient, it's stunted plant growth, pale yellow leaves. Phosphorus is needed in the synthesis of DNA, development of roots, stems, flowers, and seeds. If it is deficient, there is poor flowering and stunted growth. Potassium is needed for synthesis of proteins and carbohydrates, development of roots, stems, flowers, and resistance to cold and disease. If it's deficient, there are weak stems, stunted roots, edges of the leaves turn brown. Magnesium, needed for synthesis of chlorophyll. And if it's deficient, there are thin stems and mottled, pale leaves. Calcium is needed for cell growth and division, cell wall structure, cellular transport, enzyme action. If it's missing, there's stunted growth and curled leaves. Besides the large amounts of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and calcium needed, small amounts of other nutrients, called trace elements, are also important. These trace elements include sulfur, iron, zinc, molybdenum, boron, copper, manganese, and chlorine. As important as they are, excessive amounts of any of these nutrients in soil can also be poisonous to the plants. The cell membranes of root hairs and other cells in the root epidermis contain active transport proteins. Active transport brings the mineral ions of dissolved nutrients from the soil into the plant. The high concentration of mineral ions in the plant cells cause water molecules to move into the plant by osmosis. By using active transport to accumulate mineral ions from the soil, cells of the epidermis create conditions under which osmosis causes water to follow those ions and flow into the root, as shown in the figure. The epidermis, by active transport, pulls in ions, and by doing so, increases the concentration, and then water by osmosis follows, attempting to balance out the concentration. Next, the water and dissolved minerals pass through the cortex and move toward the vascular cylinder. Pass through the cortex and into the vascular cylinder. The cylinder is enclosed by a layer of cortex cells known as the endodermis. The endodermis, where the cells of the endodermis meet, the cell walls form a special waterproof zone called the Casparian strip. The minerals continue to flow, and the water will flow by osmosis through the endodermis in the Casparian strip. The waxy Casparian strip forces water and minerals to move through the cell membrane of the endodermis rather than between the cells. This enables the endodermis to filter and control the water and dissolved nutrients that enter the vascular cylinder. The Casparian strip also ensures that the valuable nutrients will not leak back out. As a result, there is a one-way passage of water and nutrients into the vascular cylinder. As minerals are pumped into the vascular cylinder, more and more water follows by osmosis, producing a strong pressure. Contained within the Casparian strip, the water has just one place to go: up. Root pressure, produced within the cylinder by active transport, forces water through the vascular cylinder and into the xylem. As more water moves from the cortex into the vascular cylinder, more water in the xylem is forced upward through the root into the stem. In review and in more detail, the cell membranes of root hairs and other cells in the root epidermis contain active transport proteins. The active transport brings the mineral ions of dissolved nutrients from the soil into the plant. The high concentration of mineral ions in the plant causes the water molecules to move into the plant by osmosis. In this setup, a glass tube takes the place of a carrot, plant's stem, and leaves. As the root absorbs water, root pressure forces the water upward into the tube.